Olá, nós estamos aqui no Congresso da SOBRAC em Salvador e temos o prazer de ter o Dr. Pugal conosco, uma grande autoridade na área de estimulação cardíaca, em especial na área de estimulação do feixe de Higgs, da estimulação chamada fisiológica. Dr. Pugal, thank you for having you with us. I mean, it's a great pleasure to have you at our meeting. You're one of the most engaged persons in the Higgs bundle pacing area. We just have a great session on that issue, very well attended. Tell me something. Do you believe his bundle pacing is ready for prime time for everybody else? Everybody in the community can actually be trying to do it.
Yes. Thank you for having me here. Brazil has been the hospitality is fantastic here. The Congress has been very exciting. So I work in a community hospital and not from a major academic center. And currently our practice is every single patient who gets a pacemaker gets a His bundle or conduction system pacing. So it is doable, and I think like anything else, it comes with experience. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And all electrophysiologists have the basic skills to do it, and it's not that difficult. And once you start doing it and understanding it, it becomes a routine practice. It's hard to go back to right ventricular pacing.
So you believe the data that you had in your experience all over these years is good enough and strong enough, so I think it's ready for be the first choice option in different scenarios.
Well, I think with the word of caution that we'd start off doing in patients least risky should they have a lead dislodgement or increasing threshold. But once they gain the basic experience, I think His bundle pacing is applicable to most of the patients, if not all the patients, because it opens doors to new avenues for resynchronization therapy, which may not have been available in the past, may not work as well with biventricular pacing. So, and also it puts physiology back in electrophysiology, especially for pacing. It's so much more fun for the electrophysiologist to do His bundle pacing.
Talking about conduction system disease and resynchronization, do you approach patients with left bundle branch block by His bundle pacing as your first choice, or do you go more for distal septal or deep septal pacing?
You know, that's a great question because we have such a vast amount of data on classic left bundle branch block and cardiomyopathy with mortality benefit with biventricular pacing. So it is a tough choice. But that said, we believe that the physicians engaged in conduction system pacing often see that His bundle pacing gives you a very early insight into what your patient is likely to behave after resynchronization therapy. Our approach is to have a very detailed discussion with the patients and the family members to give them the options. And here's a traditional system, and here is His bundle pacing, and explain why we want to do His bundle pacing. And I would generally recommend that while I prefer His bundle pacing for these reasons, but it's your choice, and I give them the situation that with the option of conduction system pacing and biventricular pacing, the chance of getting a good cardiac resynchronization before you leave the lab is very, very much higher than any time in the past for us. So if the patient agrees to go for His bundle pacing, then we would choose the His bundle pacing first. And when we do His bundle pacing, there's correction of bundle branch block, then we know that those patients are going to be good responders, and many of them are hyper responders and also early responders. So this is what we've noticed in our experience. So it gives us an idea that if you correct completely, then that patient is going to do well with His bundle. And if the thresholds are higher, but there is complete correction, we then move to left bundle pacing in those patients, with the understanding that there is still enough data to be built for that. And on the other hand, if my patient suggests, no, I would like to go with the traditional system, we start with the LV lead. We don't settle for anything better than good numbers in terms of thresholds, in terms of where the lead is QLV, And if the safety margin for phrenic nerve is high, we don't want to come back another time, so we would move to hispanal pacing. We have a low threshold to switch from LV to hispanal pacing.
So on a personal level, and you prefer conduction system pacing instead of the traditional CRT. If it was your choice, you would recommend that you have enough data that you have a better resynchronization with this type of technique than the traditional IV CS lead.
We do not have any long-term data, but we do have a lot of acute hemodynamic physiologic data showing hispanal pacing is better than biventricular pacing. That said, if many patients tend to ask, what would you do if it was your family member? And I tell them honestly that I would prefer to go with the hispanal pacing. So much so that I have several of my faculty members who needed CRT have hispanal pacing, and they're convinced enough. And thankfully, they've been hyper responders. So.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me here.